Hi, my name is Aaron Barnes, and this is The Bigger Picture. Today we're going to talk about a guy who you should know, but you probably don't. Thomas Jennings. Now, if you do know about Tommy, then you probably should distinguish him between two other Tommies in American history. One, he was definitely the furthest thing from an Uncle Tom, and two, yes, he did have a job. So let's get right into what made Thomas Jennings so special. First, this guy was born in New York City during a time when New York was less known about financial services and was more known about selling physical services. And by physical services, I mean slaves. Luckily for Tom, he was a free man, and as a free man, he had the freedom to choose whatever occupation that he wanted to do without any obstruction at all. Well, not quite, but you get the idea, right? Despite certain discrimination, Thomas Jennings went on to create one of the most successful tailoring and clothier services in the entire city of New York. But that's not even what made him that famous. Thomas Jennings was so good at tailoring clothes that people started asking him about other things about clothes, like, hey, I need to know how to take care of my clothes. This is what inspired his claim to fame. Motivated by all of these requests on how to clean and care for clothes, Jennings went on investigating this problem. He then went on to invent, register, and eventually was granted a U.S. patent for a process called dry scouring, which is a predecessor to modern-day dry cleaning. You know, taking your clothes up to the Chinese lady. This may not sound like a big deal, but you have to remember, this was a time before Barack Obama, Martin Luther King, Frederick Douglass, or any other prominent black men or black women who made paths easier for people to navigate these business infrastructure. Thomas Jennings most definitely faced discrimination building his business, but you can guarantee that if people didn't want black people to vote, they also didn't want black people owning their own intellectual property. Not only was Thomas Jennings historically important because he was the first African American person to get a patent, but he also pioneered an entire industry that we now take for granted because dry cleaners are based all around the country. Side note, of course, Thomas Jennings wasn't the first black person to do anything innovative in this country. Black people have been innovating since the dawn of time, and of course that didn't stop once they were enslaved and captured and transported to these here Americas. Black people have definitely been innovating throughout their time here. The problem is slavery. Thanks to the laws at the time, slave owners were legally allowed to claim eminent domain over anything that their slaveries innovated. No matter what a slave did, owned, created, thought of, the slave owner was able to say, you know what, that's actually my idea and I'll reap all of the benefits for it, just like your labor. But let's get back to TJ. Like many other accomplishments in the United States by black people, the original patent by Jennings was magically lost in a fire. Here's looking at you, Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Despite this minor setback, TJ went on to do great things with his career in the industry and in the abolitionist movement. He donated the first fruits from receiving his intellectual property to actually purchase his family members out of slavery. He also used the majority of his income to donate to the abolitionist movement throughout the rest of his life until he died in the mid-1800s. Based on these actions alone, Jennings has solidified his spot in the Hall of Fame in American history. But he went on to do even greater than that by passing on his legacy for abolitionism and even free enterprise to his daughter Elizabeth. Now, Elizabeth was a bad chick. Elizabeth ended up being a lawyer who successfully sued the Third Avenue Railroad Company in New York, desegregating the cars in New York City in the late 1800s. So the story of Thomas Jennings is important for several reasons. One, it's important to innovate by listening to your customers, protecting those innovations by securing your intellectual property, using your blessings to be a blessing to others, and passing on that legacy to like-minded individuals. We all can learn a great deal from icons like Thomas and Elizabeth Jennings, who inspire and invigorate the desire to do well, not only for ourselves, but for those around us, and most importantly, to see the bigger picture. Thanks for watching.